So my name is Lovelyti and I am a YouTube vlogger. I have been vlogging for about 5 years off and on. I talk about a wide range of things on my channel. I talk about mainly hip-hop based stories. I also talk about crazy news stories. I talk about women's issues, race relation issues, things that are going on in the Black community. I also talk about self-love and self-acceptance as well. So I talk about a wide gamut of things on my channel, but for the most part, I'm Lovelyti and I'm a YouTuber. So the first hip hop artist that I ever listened to, I would have to say it all started when I was about 6 years old. I was in first grade. We were living over in South Minneapolis, and I remember there used to be a lot of us at the bus stop, and the older kids, one of my best friends at the time, her older brother was like a 5th grader. And I remember, him and his friends were always rapping these rap songs. And then one day he was like, I'm bad. And he kept, rapping this LL Cool J song. And I didn't know what that was at the time. And I'm like, yeah, you are bad. And he's like, no, dummy, it's a song. And so him and his friends would rap this song literally every day. And I remember what I liked the most about that song. Even though I was this little 6-year-old girl in the first grade living on the south side of Minneapolis, what I remembered the most was when he would say this part, when he'd be like, I'm the pinnacle, yo, I reign supreme, I'm notorious, crush you like a jelly bean. And even though I was 6, I didn't know what notorious meant. I didn't know what, pinnacle meant. I didn't know what any of that meant. But that one word, jelly bean, it's like it stuck out of my head and it resonated with me. It's like that was my connection to hip hop as this little 6-year-old girl. I'm like, wow, I like jelly beans, and whoever this is, they like jelly beans too. So then that made me interested into, to find out more about hip hop and find out what it was at the time. So what makes someone a part of hip-hop? In my personal opinion, you have to know the history of hip-hop. You have to know that hip-hop originated in the South Bronx sometime in the 1970s, and now it's become an international billion-dollar phenomenon. Everybody has their hands in hip-hop, but a lot of people do not know about the origins of hip-hop. They don't understand the 4 elements of hip-hop. And so the 4 elements of hip-hop are DJing, breakdancing, MCing, and graffiti. And I feel like a lot of people don't know that. They just think that hip-hop is just basically what's on the radio today, but hip-hop is a lot deeper than that. It's literally raised the entire generation of us. So to me, what makes somebody a part of hip-hop culture is embracing those 4 elements of hip-hop, not just being a culture vulture. Don't just come in, make your little hits, and then dip out. Like, really respect the culture for what it was. Respect those who came before you. And I believe that that's what's missing in hip-hop today. If you look back, a lot of the original rappers, a lot of those rappers are not millionaires. A lot of them are just, regular middle-class people. Some were dead broke. I feel like a lot of those original rappers not only sacrificed themselves, but they put a lot out there. They did it because they had a passion for it. There was a point in time where people didn't get paid for making hip-hop music. You did it because you loved it. You did it because it was your passion. You did it because you wanted to see people dance and, be happy and express themselves. You know what I'm saying? I feel like the original pioneers of hip-hop, they definitely paved the way so that way our generation can literally be sitting lovely. They definitely paved the way for these record companies to be able to sign people to these $1 million deals. You know what I'm saying? When there was a point in time when most rappers weren't getting paid a dime. There was also a point in time too where rappers weren't even accepted to get a Grammy Awards. And if you guys don't know, back in like 1986, Fresh Prince, aka Will Smith, Salt-N-Pepa, Flavor Flav, and many people boycotted the Grammy Awards because they felt like hip-hop was the voice of the generation, and it was not fair that rap did not have its own category at the Grammys. So they staged a sit-in, they protested, and now we done went from where we weren't even allowed to be at the Grammy Awards to the point now where white artists are now winning awards for hip-hop. So it's definitely changed, and I definitely feel like to be a part of hip-hop, you have to pay homage. You have to know the people who came before you. Hip-hop did not start with Biggie and Tupac. I think that's the thing that frustrates me the most, is like so many kids feel like hip-hop started when Biggie and Tupac were around, but hip-hop was here long before them, and it will be here long after them. So you have to know the pioneers. You have to know who African Bambaataa is. You have to know who Melly Mel is in the Furious Five. You have to know who Kumo D is. You need to know who Roxanne Shante is. You need to know what Queen Latifah was doing before she was rocking on her TV show. You have to know, about MC Lyte and Yo-Yo, Curtis Blow, the Sugar Hill Gang. So with that being said, I just feel like you have to know about those who came before you, and you have to pay homage. You have to pay respect, because if it wasn't for them, we wouldn't have this thing that we call today hip-hop. Hip hop stands out to me because hip hop is the voice of the youth. You know what I'm saying? So many times we make it seem like the youth, like their voice doesn't count, like we don't want to hear them. But hip hop has literally given them a voice. It gives them something to do. Rather if it's them making beats in their room, rapping in a cypher, or dancing their ass off at a house party. Hip hop has literally raised the entire generation of us. And I feel like the reason why hip hop is still here, why it stands the test of time, is because hip hop speaks to the soul. You know what I'm saying? You can be in the club, you can be in your car, you can be in the classroom, and you hear that beat and you just want to start swaying. You want to start tapping your foot. You want to start bobbing your head. It's like hip hop just does something to the spirit that I don't feel with a lot of other genres. I'm not saying that it's not there with other genres, but it's definitely there with hip hop. Even if the lyrics are garbage, once that beat hits you, it's like you're just addicted. You know what I'm saying? You can't even control your body from, bobbing your head and, tapping your foot and going back and forth because hip hop literally moves the spirit. Hip hop definitely has a very strong presence. If you look at today's movies, movie trailers, games, it's very highly influenced by hip hop culture, by hip hop music, the beats, It's like hip hop is all around us. Even Fresh Prince, that TV show was based on a rapper. It was based off of hip hop. That was one of the first hip hop based shows. And it, lasted several seasons. And it's still one of the most iconic shows to this day. So to me, hip hop will always withstand the test of time. Hip hop is one of those genres that does not embrace getting older. Hip hop is definitely a young people's sport. I definitely feel like hip hop will be here 20, 30, 40 years from now. It will definitely withstand the test of time because, again, it's something that was created for the young people to be able to have an outlet and a voice. Hip hop has affected my life in the way I see things visually. One thing I can say is that with hip hop, it helps to paint a visual picture for you in your head. Being a little kid growing up in Minnesota, hip hop was able to literally transform me from my little bedroom in Minnesota to LA. I had never been to LA before. When I first heard an NWA tape, they let me know what was going on in the streets of Compton. I never knew that people was getting their homes bulldozed in by battering rams. I didn't know it was that hard in the streets because I was a little girl. So I was always kept in this little bubble. But hip-hop took me to a whole nother world. So regardless if it was me listening to NWA or listening to Wu-Tang, where they would take me to Staten Island, and I would find out how they were growing up and the things that they had to do coming up. So hip-hop has a way of transforming you and painting a visual picture. Literally, I could sit in my bedroom as a little girl, and within the span of an hour, I could pop in different CDs and travel to all these different states, to all these situations. You know what I'm saying? One minute I'm in Queensbridge Projects with Nas. The next minute I'm in New Jersey with the Fugees. The next minute, I'm listening to Biggie and he's telling me all about Brooklyn. And then the next minute I'm listening to Pac and everything's about LA and, the Bay Area and all that stuff. Hip hop has a way of addressing a lot of social issues as well. Like I said, being a kid and living in my own little bubble on Carroll Avenue, I didn't know that people had it that bad out there. I didn't know that police brutality was as severe as it was until NWA started speaking about it and until other rappers started speaking about it. I didn't know all of this. Hip-hop taught me that, and it opened my eyes to see other people's struggles, other people's situations, and to basically live my life vicariously through them, through the safety and the comfort of my bedroom as a child, between the ages of 3rd grade up until high school. So hip-hop is definitely influential in that aspect. Now, as far as how it's changed my worldviews, hip-hop has let me know that we're not so different after all. And a lot of the things that we go through in life are just based on choices, be it good choices or bad choices. But at the end of the day, we're not so different. I think that's one thing that kind of shaped my worldviews when it comes to hip-hop. Another thing as far as hip-hop influencing me is, as a female, the fashion. We look to hip-hop, especially in the 90s. They set trends. It wasn't about, rocking Burberry and Fendi and all these high-end designer labels. That didn't come until later on. But, initially when it came out, they were designing their own clothes. What I'm saying? It was cool to just wear a Kango hat and some Adidas. While the guys were rocking gold chains and, Gumby haircuts and Kango hats, us females, we were looking at Salt and Pepper and looking at their asymmetrical haircuts and looking at their door knocker earrings, and their gold ropes. So hip-hop definitely set the trend for fashion, definitely influenced the world in that. Shortly after, you had hip-hop merging with the fashion industry. I remember back in the day, everybody rocking Carl Canine and Cross Colors and FUBU and things like that. Those three brands that I specifically named definitely, you know what I'm saying, got a lot of their flavor. They definitely got a lot of their style. A lot of the things that they created for their clothing lines, it came strictly off of hip-hop. It came strictly off a lot of the rap videos and things like that. So hip-hop has definitely, you know, shaped my worldviews when it comes to social issues, when it comes to political issues, when it comes to fashion, hairstyles, clothing, you know, the latest trends, what's in, what's out. So I think hip-hop has definitely had a big influence on shaping that for me. So personally, to me, I feel like hip-hop is being represented horribly in the mainstream media. You know, I just feel like they've watered it down and dumbed it down so much that there's honestly no coming back from it. Every time I see that Kia commercial with those huge dancing rodents, literally I want to cringe. I want to just change the channel and scream. They got the headphones on, they got the, you know, the tennis shoes, they got the fake swag. It's like hip-hop has been so watered down and commercialized by mainstream, it's really damn ridiculous. And like I said before in other videos, I think the worst thing for me is that hip-hop sold out to the highest bidder. You know what I'm saying? Nowadays it's just about a hot beat and some simple Simon rhymes. You don't have to have any type of lyricism. It's all about getting people to dance, not think, and go shopping. You know what I mean? So that's the part that kind of really bothers me with how mainstream hip-hop has gone. We went from having African Bombada, Brand Nubia, Public Enemy, so many rappers teaching the black community about knowledge of self. The sad thing is that nowadays most rappers only talk about either selling drugs, popping mollies, getting high, screwing a bunch of women. It's all about the bling, how many bottles they can pop, and they talk about the same thing throughout an entire album. You know, there's like no balance whatsoever, and I think that's the most frustrating part that happened once hip-hop went mainstream. Mainstream made hip-hop lose that essential balance that's so needed. It's like there is no more yin and yang. It's like hip-hop is way down here now. It's very low vibrational. There's barely anybody trying to, you know, balance that out and make it where it's even. You know what I'm saying? We don't always need to get turned up, and we don't always need super conscious music. You know, I like to get turned up, you know what I'm saying, but I also like listening to more conscious music as well. It just depends on my mood. But when you have so much turn-up music and you barely have any conscious music, I definitely feel like that yin and yang balance is just at an all-time low right now in hip-hop. As a kid, we had our BS one-hit wonders, you know what I'm saying? We had people like, you know, Snow with Informer. We had people like Positive K with I Got a Man. So yeah, we've always had, you know, those one-hit wonders, people who just came into hip-hop to get some money and then dip out. But the thing is, there was balance. So even though we had rappers like that, we also had rappers like KRS-One, Public Enemy. You know, we had rappers who, you know, spoke to us and informed us and schooled us. And then on top of that, we also had the Snoop Dogg's and the Dr. Dre's. We had the gangster rap as well. But that was the thing that made hip-hop work in the 90s, is the fact that there was such a balance. If you didn't like gangster rap, you had other alternatives. If you didn't want to hear, you know, conscious music, you had other alternatives. If you know, just like one-hit wonders and, you know, things that you can just dance to in the club, there was that option as well. But now everybody sounds like everybody else. Everyone is hitting on the same topics. So I think when hip-hop decided to go mainstream, that's what made it worse, because now there's no more originality. You know what I'm saying? Everybody's literally talking about the same thing over and over and over again. So personally, I'm over this same simple Simon formula. I really wish a lot of artists would just step up and bring hip-hop back to the true essence. Well, I remember a few days ago, I had went on a Young Thug video. And so I was watching this video, and I'm not going to lie, I barely understand anything that Young Thug says. But, you know, he seems like a fun guy. He looks like somebody you can hang out with in the club and have a good old time. He likes to get turned up. So, like always, I go to the comments section. I'm reading comments. And I noticed that one of the top comments on his video was of a young girl. She was basically ranting, and what this young girl was saying is that all you know, 90s babies need to get the hell up off the video. It's our time. It's our era now. I'm tired of y'all whining about Tupac and Biggie. We don't care about Tupac and Biggie. If you want to, you know, talk about Tupac and Biggie, go to a Tupac video. Stop coming to our video. Stop coming to our Stop coming to the artists that we like and we support. Stop coming to their videos and downgrading them and, dissing them and talking disrespectful to them. You know what I'm saying? Just because you don't like the music. It's a whole new generation. Either get with it or keep it moving. And I'm just paraphrasing what she was saying, but that was basically the extent of what she wrote, is that basically she's tired of the old folks, 90s babies, coming onto these videos of Young Thug and Drake and all these new rappers and, dissing them and going at them, dissing Snooty Wild and, just every time you go into the comment section of YouTube, there's always a debate, especially when it's a new rapper. You always have some of the old school heads like, this is garbage and I miss Tupac and, how can y'all listen to this? And the girl's basically calling out a lot of the adults. And she had over 350 likes, which I thought was really interesting because that meant that a lot of people agreed with her, because that's a lot of damn likes to have on a comment. So my thing is this: when I read her comment, and people replied back to her, a lot of folks were offended, like, oh, you're just a dumb little girl. You don't know what real hip hop is. Your generation is trash. But I agree with her. I really did. I understood where she was coming from. And I think one of the solutions is that we have to stop knocking this generation. We have to stop being so divisive. We need to stop with this whole them versus us. I'm saying? The Tupac, the Biggie generation versus the Young Thug, the Drakes. You know what I mean? Like, we have to stop that. We need to embrace them. We need to learn more about their music, more about their artists. We need to see what these kids like. It's so easy to tear down this generation and make it seem like, their opinions are invalid and nobody cares. But this generation is what's running hip hop. You know what I mean? So it's not okay to disrespect them and to talk down to them, because I'm sure our parents felt the same exact way when we were listening to NWA, when we were listening to Tupac. I mean, a friend of mine was telling me that when he was listening to NWA, his mom would physically come into the room and break his tape. You know what I mean? So our parents did the same thing, and now we're doing the same thing to this generation. We're trying to throw shade and throw salt on what they like, as opposed to trying to figure out what it is about that music that makes it tick for them, that makes them like that makes them want to support that. And that's why I listen to all types of music, you know what I mean? Not just old school music. I listen to everyone. I want to know what these kids are listening to. I want to be in the know. So I have no problem listening to a Lil Durk. I have no problem listening to drill music. I have no problem listening to a Snooty Wild. I have no problem, listening to a lot of artists. And I think that a lot more adults need to do that. What some of these kids are talking about is the violence in their neighborhood and the killings that are going on and how it's affecting them. What makes what they're saying any different from what NWA was saying almost 20 years ago? What makes their story invalid? Because they're holding up guns? Because they're shooting in the air with their fingers? It's just the same thing. It's just a different generation. It's just a different way of them expressing themselves. So I feel like there is some hypocrisy on how we're so quick to knock this generation of rappers and just dismiss them as trash. But we have to remember that there was a whole generation, that was above us, who were bulldozing CDs and, dismissing Snoop Dogg as trash. And, they hated Dr. Dre. They were, there were petitions against death row and, trying to shut Tupac down and everything else.
So KACE banned rap it calls negative and destructive.
We're looking at songs whose lyrics glorify violence, glorify the gang lifestyle, glorify disrespecting of women, are blatantly sexually explicit.
I applaud it. I think it's a very good move. It's a positive move for not only for my children, but for the younger generation.
In Harlem, ministers called on rappers to clean up their act.
You don't have to degrade our women.
But rap fans remind critics that an earlier generation once tried to ban rock and roll.
72% of the rap records in Los Angeles are sold to white kids. If anything, this music is teaching them in this generation that they can't turn the other cheek to the problems in the inner city.
Rappers point out that heavy metal weighs in with similar hardcore lyrics.
Can't blame us for that. Go into the real problem. Don't just sit here and say musicians, rappers.
Rappers say their art is a reflection of real rage that's not going away. Neither, critics say, will their outrage.
To millions of teenagers, most of them white, he's the poet laureate of gangsta rap, the rap style of a ghetto world where everybody's got a gun, women are bitches, and shooting cops is fair game. He's also just been indicted for murder in Los Angeles. Snoop Doggy Dogg, born Calvin Brodus, insists he's innocent and he's free on $1 million bail. Shakur's also been charged with shooting 2 off-duty cops in Atlanta. Gangster rap has become incredibly popular and profitable by selling lyrics about black-on-black violence to a young mainstream audience that wouldn't dream of going anywhere near a ghetto. Now that some of its stars stand accused of doing what they've been rapping about, life seems to be imitating art, so to speak.
There's never before has there been such a will to use music, to advertise self-destructive violence.
There's no difference in rappers. We all represent the consciousness of our people, but there are certain ways that we go about it.
So it's funny how things have come full circle. It's funny how the parents who were parents in the 90s, you know what I'm saying, were upset about the music. And we were like, they're just expressing themselves. 2 Live Crews just expressing themselves. I need to calm down. It don't matter. It's just music. And now that we're parents and we're getting older, now we're doing the same shaming tactics to this younger generation. And I don't agree with that at all. So I think the way that you resolve the issue, the solution to this, is teaching the younger generation that there needs to be a balance. And I think that's what the problem is. So there's no big homie steering these young kids in the right direction. There's no big homie trying to tell them about finances and saving their money and investing. There's no big homie telling them to make balance in your music. You can't tell me that every day in the hood there's a killing. Every day in the hood is just horrible. I grew up in the hood. You know what I'm saying? We had our good days just like we had our bad days. So I think for me, that's what I want to see in hip-hop. I think the solution is to have a balance. Don't just have music talking about killing each other, selling drugs, having sex. Have a balance. It's okay to show that a rose can grow from a concrete. I think one of the things I really, really loved about Ice Cube is that, he could come out with this hardcore hip-hop music, talking about, killing and police brutality and, all types of stuff. You better check yourself before you wreck yourself. But then in the same breath, he had a song like Today Was a Good Day. And we needed that. We needed that in the 90s. And I remember that one line in the song when he was like, plus nobody I know got killed in South Central LA. Today was a good day. And that is so true. Everybody's not getting killed every day. I don't care if it's Chicago, if it's New York, if it's Minneapolis. There's not always a homicide. There's not always, bad going on 24/7. Let's talk about the good things too. Let's talk about the good things that happen in the hood. Let's talk about the good people who are also trying to make a change and trying to make a difference. So I think there should definitely be a balance, to these records. Don't just give me 12 to 16 tracks of you trying to just, kill the ops. Going on drive-bys and selling drugs. That's not what your life consists of every day. I want people to be more honest. There's some days there ain't nothing to do. It's boring. I'm just sitting in the house watching TV. And then there's other days, we go out and we get crunk, we have a good time. So I feel like at the end of the day, it's not about shaming. It's just about teaching these kids that you have been blessed with a voice. You're doing something that so many people envy. Everybody can't rhyme. Everybody can't rap. Everybody can't make a beat. Everybody can't produce. So when you are blessed to have a platform to speak to people, with great blessings come great responsibilities. And I think that's what the big homies in the rap game need to teach these younger kids and these younger guys and these younger females coming up. You have to have that balance. I don't want to just hear about young people killing other young people. There has to be a balance in that equation, and they have to be honest about their situation. I feel like we have to talk about more things besides just the negative things that happen in the hood, besides just the negative things that we go through. You have to, I think that's what I want to see on an album. I want to see an album that takes me through a whole range of emotions, and I think that's what I got with the latest J. Cole album. He took me through a range of emotions. He talked about a lot of different things, and I think that that's what's missing in hip-hop. I think that's why a lot of people dismiss hip-hop. They don't like hip-hop. They don't want to be bothered with hip-hop because it's the same formula. It's very low vibrational, and who wants to put on a CD and be depressed all the way through the CD? Nobody wants that. You know what I mean? So there has to be a balance. And who wants to listen to a CD and all you're talking about is popping bottles and tricking off money at the club, but I'm sitting here in the hood still broke? I don't want to hear that shit. You know what I mean? So we have to be really, really honest with ourselves, and we have to be honest with our audience. Some of the best times I ever had in the hood was just chilling with my homeboys on the steps, laughing. You know what I'm saying? Cracking jokes, playing the dozens. So everything isn't always about having money and spending money in the club and tricking it off and popping bottles. Sometimes the best times in the hood is just being on the block and just having fun with your friends and clowning. And, those are some of the best times that I remember growing up in our neighborhood. And guess what? It costs absolutely nothing. So I think rappers just, they have a responsibility to be just more honest and to speak on a wide variety of things. I think when people come out with more well-rounded albums where they're talking about multiple topics, not just death and destruction, I think then and only then will people really start supporting the music and wanting to be a part of the music. But that's what we have to do. That's our job as this generation, to step up and teach the generation below us. It's not about shaming them for listening to a Young Thug. It's about pulling Young Thug's coattail and saying, okay, cool, I'm glad you make all these party songs. Now tell us about your life. Tell us some good things that happened in your life, because your whole life just couldn't be just miserable. You know what I'm saying? We all have our good and bad days. So I think that that's what's missing, and I think that that's what needs to be taught to this generation of hip-hop artists coming up, is that we have to have a fair balance.